Good morning, Armor Down. What's going on? Hope you slept well. I'm sleeping the best I've slept in a long time. A lot of that has to do with I've done a no alcohol I've committed to no alcohol for 100 days, and I'm on I think I'm on day 40. But I tell you, it has a big impact. That's worthy of a month of discussion. Anyway, let's keep talking a little bit about armor. So when my brother died, life was taking a pretty predictable pattern. So if we think about the brain, predictive processing, essentially expectations about what's happening, and not just like what's happening tomorrow, but expectations of what I'm going to see when I turn that way. Like this isn't some projection into the future. This is now. Your brain is now interacting with these kind of understandings of the world around it, projecting the world around it, and then checking its predictions with your senses, right? So built into that is the incentivization of predictability. So when predictability is destroyed, there's just this huge gap that opens up. And it's a gap that if you've never experienced trauma, my daughter described that whole opening up as her heart falling out of her chest. So it was a very physical thing. I remember a Gold Star father who, when he found out his son got killed in an IED strike in Afghanistan, he said over and over again, he said, I was so surprised by how physical the feeling was, the physical feeling of loss. When my mother died, and this was a beautiful process, of just, it was time for her body to let go and her spirit to move on. When I was with my dad, we were at the bed as my mother passed, and he said, as her breath, I was counting her breaths, and as her last breath left, my father said he felt her body like pull from his, like pull and leave physically, very physical. So I really want to emphasize this physicality, okay? So when that stuff happens, it's a very physical thing. It's huge. So what does this predictive processor, this brain, do? Well, for me, when that hole opened up, when my heart fell out of my chest, I developed a response that was anger driven. Anger is a very special thing. Anger is not just a negative, like, oh, I don't want anger. Anger is a very powerful thing. I mean, it can motivate, it can keep you alive, it can get you going, it can turn into, you add love to anger, it's courage. I mean, it's just a really, really powerful thing. So anyway, my relationship to this, my heart falling out of my chest, so to speak, was to question it, to be angry about it. And I've got familiarity of this. And then when it hit me, kind of with my little nephew, that the emphasis on anger, while helpful over time, is also the emphasis. If you're emphasizing anger, you're not interacting with other stuff. So my emphasis for 31 years has been to kind of interact with my brother's sudden death with this element of anger. And so when I had this really meaningful, deep, intimately experience with my little nephew, 18-year-old nephew Wilder, that anger wasn't there. There was all this sweetness and this intimacy and this love, and just listening to his little expressions of what he wanted to do or the book he wanted to read, and just kind of following him around and having him sit on my lap or want to get all snuggle close to me when we read books. I mean, it was just like, oh, it's just now I'm thinking about it, just all this sweetness, all this love, and just like, oh, love it. So, I'm trying to be more interactive with this sweetness, with this love, with this connectivity. And it's still, I mean, I still am surprised when I hear myself say the word love, because there have been times, it's not so much now, but what just saying that word is kind of, just don't want to do it. It's like there's an element of revulsion. So anyway, recognizing that, making the conscious effort to get kind of deeper, more connected, that's something I'm really just now starting working on. So anyway, last night it's bedtime and I'm interacting with Allegra, and she's still, especially at night, because every night Marley would, the dog, and Allegra just we had to put our dog down. That was Allegra's best friend. So every night the dog would come into her room, lay down on the floor, and she would spend time just kind of cuddling with him, kissing him, being sweet to him. And then she'd get in bed, and then we'd read stories, and then she'd fall asleep. So nighttime's really hard for her. So last night this is going on this is the third week. It's almost a month since he's passed. And so last night she's just really struggling. And what she's struggling with is why it happened. Why is this? It's not fair. It's just these. And I remember this so clearly when Edward died. This is 31 years ago when Edward died. I remember this questioning. Like, you think about it, your brain is working with predictability, trying to develop predictability. Any failures of predictability gets reassessed through the senses. It's just this constant, it's an overlay. The brain is creating the matrix, right? Just to think of that level of sophistication, that level of integration. It's even doing more than we realize or that we're conscious of. So the brain's doing this stuff, and then this huge, like, unpredictable event just boom, shatters everything. Now all of a sudden you have to question, like, what can this really be? Can this really be the case? Can this really happen? Like, so everything is just gone. So anyway, I'm sitting with Allegra and I'm listening to her, and I'm starting to get frustrated. Like, in my body, I'm feeling the feelings of, like, just get over it. Like, God damn it, he's dead already. I'm watching this happening inside me. I'm like, oh Jesus. So this is what the anger is, right? This is the armor, right? This is the armor wanting to armor up. Like, let's just get away from this. Let's get away from this deep sadness. I don't want to go there. I don't want to be in this. Allegra, just suck it up. So this is the feeling that's coming up as I'm sitting there with my sweet little 8-year-old daughter, just trying to grapple with loss and death of her best friend. And she just, so sad. And the anger is coming out, just like, and I just want her to just get over it, and so I'm feeling all this. And so what I did while I'm feeling all this was I went into a mantra style of practice. So what we're going to do is we're going to practice that for the 4 bells. And I'll show you in practice what the mantra engagement is. But what I did was, instead of kind of feeding the anger, so I was feeding the anger in the moment with, like, why don't you get over it? So here's my thoughts. So Allegra is here, just really struggling with the moment. I'm next to her. I'm laying next to her, and she's just going back and forth. Why did this happen? I'll never see him again. And I'm listening to her kind of talk through her feelings. And my feelings on the inside are just, I don't want to, God, just get over this. Like, come on. And so instead of interacting with those thoughts, because this is the stuff my brain is coming up with, and not just my brain, the feelings in my body, I'm feeling the revulsion of this. I want to get away from it. I just want it to stop, and I want to go somewhere else. I just want to be done. And so I'm feeling this, I'm aware of this. And so then I went into the mantra style, which is basically just repeating locations of my body over and over and over again. So I gave my mind something to do inside this space that I don't really, I want to be away from it, but I can't. I have to be with her. I have to be in this sadness with her. So to armor up now is to hurt her, to tell her, because I can't handle it, you need to get over it. That's like, no, that cannot happen. Because, I mean, imagine if I'm yelling at her to stop feeling that. I mean, God, don't feel that. Just get over it. Life's hard. Suck it up. 8-year-old. Like, so I've got to be in this. I've got to have the courage to be in this. So I'm in this, and it sucks, and I don't like it. It feels gross. So what do you do about it? So what I did was I practiced second bell over and over and over in my head. So, when we do second bell, we go ground, pelvis, core, heart, throat, top of the head. We just break the body experience into chunks: ground, pelvis, core, heart, throat, top of the head, and just boom, 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 boom. So I'm laying next to Allegra, and I'm literally present with her, but I'm giving my mind something to do. Instead of spinning it up, I'm saying, okay, feet, pelvis, core, heart, throat, head, feet, pelvis, core, heart, throat, head, feet, pelvis, core, heart, throat, head. So I am jamming my mind with those statements. And because they are statements associated with my body parts, my brain has to associate there. So it can't move from those statements. It can, but every time I bring the statements back, because of this thing called interpellation, remember interpellation, this is early on, because of this phenomena, when I say feet, my mind has to associate feet with feet. So it disrupts the pattern of armor. It totally disrupts it. So that's why mantra is so powerful. Mantra is the same as rosary. Mantra is the same as like Buddhist chants. Mantra and singing are associated together. So this engagement with a repetitive phrase is very powerful. So while I was able to do that, I was able to sit with the suck, right? Sit with the stuff that I didn't want. Armor off, armor down, like boom, heart right there, feeling it with her. Also aware of my revulsion to it, also aware of that, but my love is triumphing, my love is triumphant. And so sitting with her, and then she was like, I want to talk to Mama now. And I said, okay. And then she said, thanks, Dad. And I got up and went to the other daughter and helped her fall asleep. But I was able to stick with it. I was able to be in it. And one of the things I've learned, because this has shown up in other ways, maybe shame will be a video we'll talk about in the future, but it's shown up in other ways. And what happens is each time you fully immerse yourself into the uncomfortable moment, it gets a little bit easier to do. And so now the brain works into its predictive processing this experience sans armor, without the armor. So it's like, before you armor down, the brain predicts the revulsion. So that's part of what it means to have a predictive processor as a brain. So it's putting the revulsion into the moment because of the memory of the revulsion. So when you accept that revulsion, it changes the dynamics of how your brain is predicting the moment. And so it changes that. And so the next time you do it, that prediction of how you're going to behave includes your willingness to sit with it, and totally changes the whole dynamic. It's really, really powerful stuff. It's kind of like what we do in the practice. We come out of the predictive processing and we come into the present moment. And the more we interact with the present moment, the more the predictive processor of the brain includes this relationship to the present moment. So it's not just you're building the practice, you're building your brain to include the practice. So it's all very woven together and interconnected. And that's part of what makes it so challenging to engage with, because it is life itself, that we are interacting with the experience of life fully, not the pieces of ideology, not the pieces of identity, not the pieces of zeitgeist, not the pieces that we're supposed to be according to our gender or our preferences. No, we're interacting with the world as it is and as we are. Remember, we don't interact with the world as it is, we interact as we are. Well, we can create who we are to include the full picture, and not a picture that includes a whole bunch of armor that keeps us from feeling some stuff. Passing on this stuff to armor down, love is triumphant, and boom, being in the whole thing. So let's do that with the practice. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a practice that's it's a little bit quicker. So it's going to be mantra based. So inside of each bell, I'll kind of give you the mantra and you just repeat it. You just repeat it in your head. And what happens by the repetition is that the narrative or the story, the past, the future, all that kind of stuff gets scrambled. You're basically running interference with the mantra. So the brain's patterns can't really settle in because the mantra is underneath everything driving the moment. So just repeat this phrase with your inner voice. What do I hear? 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 Now repeat the phrase, what do I smell? 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 And just keep repeating it. Keep repeating it. What do I feel? 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 Just put it on a loop with your inner voice. Now, what do I taste? 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 Okay, we're going to go to second bell. This has been my go-to for years. Just repeat these locations: ground, pelvis, core, heart space, throat, top of the head. Ground, pelvis, core, heart space, throat, top of the head. Ground, pelvis, core, heart space, throat, top of the head. Ground, pelvis, core, heart space, throat, top of the head. Ground, pelvis, core, heart space, throat, top of the head. Ground, pelvis, core, heart space, throat, top of the head. Okay, let's switch it. Third bell. Okay, now just repeat the phrase, but this time try to match it. So you're going to say, as you breathe in, I breathe in, I breathe out. And so what you do is you try to match the speed of the mantra to the movement of the breath. It's hard to do it and talk at the same time, but it's I breathe in on the exhale. I breathe in. I breathe out. I breathe in. I breathe out. And just repeat that so that the sound of the inner voice and the experience of the breath match. All right, now let's switch to fourth bell. So by the time you've gone through the first three bells, kind of doing this mantra, the mantra to get to fourth bell is the mantra of acceptance of suffering. So it's compassion. So you want to narrate compassion. So this is one that I think is really helpful because it speaks to what you're doing in this context. So I accept your suffering. I give you my peace. I accept your suffering. I give you my peace. I accept your suffering. I give you my love. I accept your suffering. I give you my peace. So it's this acceptance of the harshness and the giving of the love, which is compassion. And it's just a repetitive process. You accept what's happening in the moment and you give your goodwill. I accept your suffering. I give you my goodwill. I accept your pain. I give you my love. I acknowledge your pain. I give you my love. I acknowledge your peace or your pain. I give you my peace. I accept this suffering. I give you my love. And be courageous about it. This is the willingness to go into the harshness, the willingness to sit with the physical suffering and giving your love. It's expanding your heart. It's giving, it's giving, it's giving. The heart is infinite in its capacity to give love and to like to like accept the suffering and give it back as love. It's internal alchemy. It is the greatest strength that the human heart has, or the human experience holds. It's the ability to be with the harshness, to be with it and give your love. This is courage. This is the absolute essence of being the best version of yourself, is willingness, the courage to be inside of the harshness, the suffering in any form. Give love. I accept the suffering and I give you my love. I accept the suffering and I give you my love. I accept the suffering and I give you my love. And always be intentional about the end. 2 breaths, second exhale finishes the practice. Now that last part, and Adam, correct me if I'm wrong, is a Tong Lin practice. So again, these techniques I'm sharing with you are techniques that have been around for forever. Like the Tong Lin practice is literally the acceptance of suffering and the giving of compassion. It's willingness to, it's the courage to bring it in and share. So that's compassion. You know, as warriors, you know, we're willing to go into, you know, these different places in, you know, in the context of like the external, right? The external scary world. We're willing to go in there. But oftentimes when it comes to the scary stuff within here, it's like, no, I don't want to do it. It's too hard. But yeah, you can do it. And this kind of style that we went through, this kind of mantra style, is very effective. And it's really helpful inside of a moment. Because you can't necessarily break down into, you know, your sit and go into meditation. You got to be in it. So mantra is really helpful. So I hope that was useful for you. And of course, if you got any questions, let us know, myself or Adam. Yeah, we've got a lot coming. We've got Patreon coming online, so you can participate in a much deeper level in the practice, and, you know, help play a role in building out the Armor Down community. So keep a lookout for that. All right, Armor Down. I'll see you.